or resurrecting the ancestral blood song is, to my mind, the single most important thing that has to happen in our age. And it's connected to the witchery of 500 years of Vatican crimes. It's connected to the papal doctrines of discovery and the hegemony of the imperial crowns of Europe, which were unleashed in the name of God to go and conduct a massive slaughter and holocaust of the black skin, brown skin, red skin, yellow skin peoples. And of course, was done diversus. The white skins were thrown in as well, the sacking of the Saracens and the pagans. So it's not about black versus white. It's about the rainbow tribe of humanity versus invisible masters and certain nefarious elements that choose to use this planet and our genes as a utility by best accounts. So that's the backdrop to the story. I don't need to have it corroborated. I'm old and wise enough to know I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, you already know that I'm on the same page with you as well. So
exactly. 25 years of my own form of diplomacy, and I see now where we're going wrong in trying to lobby and trying to shape policy and trying to conjure initiatives and trying to build certain infrastructures to be remedied. They're all partly useful, but none of them will actually break the spell. They will all be secondary elements. We have to break the dream spell, and that is less to do with a force of fire breaking it, intellectually or technologically. It's more to do with the return of the eternal mother. It's more to do with the return of the talking stick or the power rod to the grandmother, so to speak. Psycho-civilizationally, it has to happen. It cannot not happen, and it must happen now. I am in touch with enough powerful elites and military and intelligence elements and extraterrestrial interface elements at every level to know exactly what I'm talking about. And there is no one out there capable of seeing, so it would appear, seeing how to pierce the Hermes veil. Now, what I've seen is that it is connected to resurrection of the ancestral blood song, which needs to be, in a sense, brought together again, despite itself, because most of the First Nation peoples, and I've just been in the Arizona desert, I've just been up there with the Hopi elders from Mesa 1 and Mesa 2. I was in 3 days and nights in with them. I have been with hundreds of different First Nation peoples over the last 24 years, 25 years. What I've seen, the common thing is that there's angry, pissed off Aboriginal peoples who don't know quite why they're pissed off, but it's something to do with the white man, something to do with the white man's poison, something to do with, the gold heist and the land heist. But there's something else at work. It's to do with the disconnect between the Adamites and the spirit realm of the earth, the telluric realm of the earth. So that relationship has been shattered by this Babylonian priesthood and Orion Sabbatean, cult nonsense. The 500 years of Catholic Church imperial hegemony of the crowns of Europe under papal decree, going forth and massacring, bloodletting, and then establishing the parent corporation through the Anglo-American Compact and then Dutch East India Company, British East India Company, we all know the shit show, eventuating into 196 corporations masquerading as governments, all tethered through their central banks, as you know, back to central command and control. The trifecta, DC, Vatican, Crown of England, yes, but behind that, Bank of International Settlements, and behind that, some imperial Draco fucking real dark nonsense, but all part of the great panoply of this creation. What I'm suggesting, Michael, is that the return of the rainbow tribe, so to speak, and I don't like that kind of hippy-dippy language, but the return of the rainbow tribe, so to speak, is the absolute quintessential piece in all prophecy. We have to come back together. It's got to be an actualized, it's got to be consciousness in action, and we have to bring back the elements through the blood song. Now, I don't have my Vajra Dorj with me. It's in the back of my car, in the car park here. I took the Vajra Dorj from Indonesia. It's an ancient one that I've got, bronze one, and I took it to the Hopi and to explain to them what the Vajra Dorje was. This was the elemental technology used by the god kings, the pre-Sumerian god kings, the so-called Anunnaki, and the titans of old. They used to fashion, terraform worlds using these technologies. What's the point I'm trying to make about the Vajra Dorje? I'm really trying to drive a message here that we've got to enter the still point. It can only happen through the resurrection of the ancestral blood song. That can only happen once we've brought the Rainbow Tribe together into the locale, whether that's in the Serengeti plains of Africa. And I sat with the Maasai for 2 weeks and they got it. They totally fucking got it. These unbelievable souls who follow cattle and never build fences around anything and never take life. They drink blood and milk together, but they never kill an animal unless it dies naturally. So they are the true custodians of the Dark Mother, the African continent. And I sat with them for 2 weeks and slept on mud floors. And they have said they will call the ram's horn. They will bring 50,000 Maasai warriors in. When they call the ram's horn, within 72 hours, the horn is heard across the breadth of Africa. They'll come in. I sat with the Khoi king of Southern Africa and the queen. And he said to me, Sasha, I have 200,000 soldiers. I have the biggest army in Africa. It's your army. Command us. Tell us where you want me to direct that army. Yes, it's about resurrecting the blood song of the ancestors. It has got to happen. I've sat with First Nation peoples everywhere. They get it. They understand. So, Michael, what I need to do, what I want to do is dream into manifestation a resurrection of the blood song of the ancients. If we get the 740 tribes of America, because that's the key piece here. There are 500 plus federally recognized First Nation tribes in America, but there are 740 odd that actually exist. We need to go for the 740. I need to somehow get them. I'm speaking now to the grandmothers and to the elders, and they're coming. Every day it's happening. It's a phenomenon that is unfolding. I'm addressing the Alliance of Indigenous Nations in the summit, I think tomorrow, Thursday. I'm doing the big address with Phil Lane Jr., who's archetypally one of the big paramount figures in this country. He's in his 80s. He's the Eagle of Condor. Do you know Phil Lane?
I've worked with him since 2005, starting here in Hawaii.
I didn't know that, and I'm so thrilled to hear it. So Phil is one of the equation. He's not.
See this?
Yeah.
I wrote down north and south. That's the eagle and the condor. That's Phil Lane and his work. You're the east to the west. You notice the arrows? He's going from the north to the south, the eagle going to the north to the south with the condor. You're going from the east to the west.
Yeah.
And literally that, in my opinion, and let me play just a 2-minute video. I'm going to share a screen real quick. You're with him tomorrow?
Phil has invited me. I think it's hidden behind it, the Alliance thing, and I'm on that summit thing tomorrow. And I'll show you what it is that I wanted to address during that. It's part of what I want to talk to you about. Carry on.
Let me just show this video real fast because we're streaming this, and I want to make sure
Very good.
Other folks get context.
Okay. Love it.
This is Phil. You know Phil.
Love it. I know. I've seen all of this. I love it.
Mitakepi, my very, very beloved relatives of our human family. We live in a corrupt global system. But are we a part of it?
Are we part of it? Are we part of it?
No. I've seen all of this, Michael.
No.
Very good.
Been very patient.
Let's just get
few
context
control
for just
resources we all
another
need.
60 seconds.
The question is, can we change it?
We've all heard the voices shouting, it's not your turn.
Our heart aches to do more, to be more.
Notice the
But
child
time is
on the
running out.
horse.
Time is running out.
Time is running out.
We start by completely trusting we can make a difference.
Right here.
Because with one heart and one mind and many bodies, in unity, we can do anything.
Very good. Beautiful.
Together, we must take unprecedented, unified action.
And transform the world around us.
No matter how challenging that may be.
individual sovereignty, freedom, love, and justice.
Unite us all.
Because there are indigenous-led technologies coming.
That
Indigenous
gives us
led.
all the opportunity to stand.
To give, to love.
That's what responsible technology should do.
If you are one of those who believe it's your turn,
Stand together.
Rise up.
everyone.
Everywhere.
You are the rising generation.
Did you notice how he passed it from one generation to the next?
Yeah. Yes.
That generation that he passed it to is my second oldest son.
Right. Very good.
And the key is indigenous-led technologies. So you're spot on. You're absolutely
Yeah.
spot on.
Very good. Thank you for that. I have seen that, and then that meant something when I first saw it.
This
Resurrect. Carry on.
Go
Carry
ahead.
on.
Well, go ahead. I can follow your lead, or I can review some of the work that's been done behind it. So this represents the digital world, which no one owns or controls, not even myself. It's got a simple declaration of unity that spells out, and you've seen this, you've signed this, you know the importance of this declaration. Massively important document for humanity. I've worked within the last 14 months in all of these different nations, specifically in the Pacific. We're also wrapping in, there are 9 nations over in the Atlantic, but they're all oceanic based, primarily because they're decentralized countries and they know and understand decentralization at their core, that it's a true and correct principle. So 19 countries I've met with in the last 14 months, and 4 of them have signed up to use the technology from this digital world. And the technology provides services like this. It's all built on a life app based upon the jurisdiction. So Tuvalu life, Vanuatu life, Fiji life, Samoa life, Tonga life, Hawaiian life. These are all apps. You can go to the Apple Play Store, download Hawaiian Life, and get your identity decentralized. You can do it on any phone now, which is different than when you and I originally connected. It's on any Android phone, any Apple phone, any Clear phone. It works on all of them worldwide. You can create businesses, like Trump was just shut down this last week. His business, his banks, everything. That's because it's built on a house of cards, or basically on sand. It's very insecure. Why have a jurisdiction that's one piece of the world when, like Phil Lane told me, Mike, when it comes, it will come from the cloud. And that's what this is. And it's not just a cloud that's some other person's server or some other company's server, but we all share in it. Identity, wallets, reputation, voting, health, land, payments, council management.
Michael, if I may, we're absolutely preaching to the choir, and I just don't have the time right now. I've got an interview with Michael Jaco in 40 minutes, and I've got to drive somewhere to get there because So let me just show you what it is that I need to do, because I know there's a configuration. I know it's huge. You need to tell me what that is. But let me just share my screen.
Go ahead.
Okay, very briefly, where are we? Boom, 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 boom. Okay.
By the way, this same system we're working with Phil Lane to build for what's called the Oceanic Coalition and the Four Worlds International. So let's see what you kind of see and see if we can put it all together at the same time. It's basically all the oceanic parts of the world using maritime law, and then going county by county through Oregon all the way to Idaho, there's a great Idaho movement, all the way down to Texas, all the way down to South America, where you're at. So it comes from the water, it comes from the ocean. And that's one of the reasons I've been dedicated with the Hawaiian Kingdom, to help them take their land back that was stolen 131 years ago. And you know all about that.
So I've just bought a new computer, and I don't even know how to give the privileges. So I'm not going to share my screen.
No. Let me help. Let me see if I've got. Yeah, you're a host. You're a host, so you'll be able to share. There's going to be a little button down at the bottom that's got an arrow up that should be green. What kind of computer is it?
It's a Power Mac thing.
So It's gonna, if you go to the Zoom window, it'll have black around our photos, our faces. If you go down on that window, you'll see a green box.
Yeah, share screen. I do this all for a living. And then I'm going, one participant can share at a time, it says.
I'm off. I'm not sharing right now.
Okay, multiple participants can, so I've just changed that. I think that's what you were talking about. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, good. You can see this?
I got you.
Okay, just an image. Now, I planned this originally with Roseanne Barr. She and I were going to headline the Conscious Life Expo that's just been. And she and I planned it 2-3 months ago.
Your screen went off.
I just turned it off.
Okay.
I'll come back to it. We were planning to headline the Conscious Life Expo with a 3-hour ceremonial event to kick off the campaign and the initiative that I'm talking about. And I had Kathy O'Brien coming in. Do you know Kathy O'Brien?
No.
Kathy O'Brien, Roseanne Barr's best friend, but Kathy is the woman who forced the Clinton administration to come public and apologize for MK Ultra Project Monarch and the heinous crimes of the CIA and the US government against countless citizens through the Monarch program and the MK Ultra program. This was many years ago. Kathy O'Brien is the great survivor of ritual satanic abuse, multi-generational RSA, and then she was inducted in as a presidential sex slave, became a presidential courier for about 20 years, worked with 5 US presidents. And her life story is legend. She wrote Transformation of America with her handler turned husband, Mark Phillips, who died a few years ago. I dedicated the founding of the International Tribunal for Natural Justice to Mark Phillips and Kathy O'Brien in 2015 because I knew many years ago the importance of these people. It turns out that she and Roseanne Barr are best friends. Roseanne's a huge fan of mine. We met up a few months back and I said, okay, it's time. And she said, yes, it's time. We've got to, and it's all about returning the talking stick to the grandmothers, you know, the power rod.
Yep.
Yeah, the warrior class of men cannot go to war unless they get the sanction from the grandmothers. End of. That's it. And if that simply comes back into the fall of the patriarchal fray, taking the need to the eternal mother or the grandmother, whatever you want to say, that has to happen archetypally. And that's connected to the absolution, redemption, salvation, and ascension complex of this entire fucking plane of existence, without any question of doubt. Without any question of doubt. So bringing together the tribes becomes the key piece. We're planning a Hollywood event at a big theater, Midsummer's Day, more or less. I've got a hold on 2 theaters. The idea is, and Phil Lane, of course, is being invited in to participate in the ceremonial piece, the grandmothers being invited to participate in. And it's really about the end of the patriarchy, a return of the rod to the eternal mother or the grandmothers, using the optics of Hollywood, the optics of social media and TikTok and our idiot generation. So I've got Johnny Depp contacted last week and said he wants to get involved. Also a huge fan and wants to get involved. Nicolas Cage's people reached out. It looks like we might get a big assemblage of A-listers who are going to help to red pill the dream spell machine of Hollywood, meaning to say the liberal intellectual class of America, the entire East and West Coast, as you rightly alluded to a moment ago, energetically, that's exactly what it's about, cracking the fucking spell on the East and West Coast of America so that the Commonwealth and the middle pulse of Middle America can convene and also begin to make peace with the ancestral carnage.
Do you know
that the black, red, and so on? Carry on.
Do you know Jimmy Levy?
I know the name.
He's an amazing, he walked away from Hollywood and he's written some amazing songs. What I'd like to do, I'll bring him up to speed and ask him if he'll write a song on this. What's the time frame for the event and what other people are involved?
I've got other people involved doing that, big players, so I don't want to get into that right now. Thank you. I've got very powerful Axl Rose and others wanting to do that, and I'll tell you more about the metric. Robin DiMaggio is my music director. He's arguably the #1 guy in Hollywood, has been for 25 years. So we can have that conversation. But right now, it's about optics, and it's about how we create an event in Hollywood that cracks the dream spell, gets out, and then begins a process of countdown to 0 0 is 740 Native American tribes of the Americas convening either in the cradle of the Rainbow Tribe at Sedona, Arizona, or in Standing Rock, or there's one other location that the grandmothers mentioned to me that is their Holy of Holies. The idea being, if we can put it off by midsummer next year, 2025, to have the 740 representatives brought in, standing in a circle, 1 kilometer in circumference or thereabouts, and have a circle of fire. So back to the image here that I had up here. So this image here being the image, a resurrection of the Eternal Mother connected to the patriarchy, the 740 warrior class males standing in a circle, the ceremony being conducted by Phil Lane, by the grandmothers, by other select representatives of the Hopi, the Cherokee, and so on. And more than that, we bring the Hollywood zeitgeist from that theater in Hollywood. We bring that zeitgeist with our celebrities, carrying the eyes and the attention of the world into this massive flame in the middle. And then that flame gets taken by the Cherokee, who are the staff holders of all the nations, and then starts to light up. And each of the tribes people start to light up the fork on the left-hand side of themselves. I'm so sorry. What is the centripetal? Whatever the centripetal spin is. It's not clockwise, anti-clockwise, isn't it? So they would pass the torch to the right, light up their brother. They would pass to their brother, and it'd take about 7 or 8 minutes to light up a 1 kilometer circumference circle of fire in the desert, visible from space, from satellite, and obviously drones. And then bringing that flame all the way back, all around, and then taking it back again from the Cherokee walk it back into the bonfire, and it connects. So there's that piece there. I did in 2019, Michael, at my villa in Bali, I was entrusted by the First Nations peoples out there, the Rajas and the Sultans came together. Let me just stop sharing and open up another file for you. And I did work with all of the kings of Indonesia, all of them. And we brought them all together for the first time in history. There we go. Let me just open this up. Okay, we're opened up. 1 second.
I'd like to build a system for the Kingdom of Indonesia, and
Done.
Present it to you, and for you to present it to them.
Done. I will take you in to meet the King of Kings, the Rajas, the Sultans. I'll be back there next month. I've been commanded to come back to do another royal procession in May. Sorry, whilst we're doing this, I'm just looking to see if I can find that particular file. I'm sorry, Michael, please bear with me.
I'll have that done by the 1st of April or 2nd of April.
Okay, understood. Give me 1 moment. I'll show you the King of Kings here, Raja Samu. It's, very interesting characters. This is him here. Very kind man, very, very good soul. Just lost his princess, his queen. So he's in some mourning. Here he is. We have a very close relationship. This is him again. Can you see this picture okay?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay. And I've been ennobled by him. I carry the seal of the King of Kings. I've been ennobled by him, and I'm a prince of Indonesia. Technically, I don't speak publicly about it. But wherever I go, now I have to be received at a certain level in Asia by all those who understand the hereditary culture, because I'm regarded as one of their peers now. I think they've worked out that I can do, that's me in my uniform, but they've worked out that I can do certain things that they're unable to do. That's the spiritual wonder boy. That's the highest ranking royal blood individual on the face of the earth, whose DNA is the only DNA that will activate the total reset, the real reset, when it's called upon. Very enigmatic stuff. But I was introduced to Spiritual Wonder Boy by the Raja of Indonesia, the King of Kings. So it's all very enigmatic stuff, as you probably know. And I've been involved for a long time. I just know that right now, by the midpoint of 2025, we've got to do whatever we can to reassemble the blood song of the rainbow tribe here, the scattered tribes of the Americas, into invention.
It just hit me that what needs to happen, that Kingdom of Indonesia has their own system, and you actually get adopted into their system as the first transaction that happens. A similar thing just happened with me in the Hawaiian Kingdom, where they adopted me in, and then we built the system for it. So it's never had an official system like that. But what it's doing is it's pulling all the bloodlines all together, because we're one world, one people, you know that. And it pulls all of it together and digitally connects us, but in a decentralized way where our identities are private. And that's the difference between the centralized systems and the decentralized systems. So
very good.
Go ahead.
Absolutely bang on. Absolutely bang on. The International Tribunal for Natural Justice is going to be launching a countdown shortly to Midsummer this year. And what we want to do at the theater event is announce this, which is to open up a platform. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about, because I think with your technology, your expertise, this is the perfect segue. I need to launch an International Judicial Commission of Inquiry with the World Hereditary Council that we're setting up right now as the arbiter and moderating force behind a Judicial Commission of Inquiry into the doctrines of discovery. Because once all the First Nation peoples of the world, the hundreds of small island states and the thousands of tribes, and we're right now in the process of assessing and auditing who are those tribes, who are the disparate voices, and bring those thousands of voices forward on online virtual testimonies, oversighted by the World Hereditary Council, conducted through a very simple apparatus, which you would be able to knock together in a heartbeat, which is conducting the virtual court. And the virtual court is any number of the law commissioners who are sworn on, the elders, agree to participate once a week or twice a month to sit over and preside. There are certain rules to just bearing witness and sitting on the bench, but those elders sit on the bench. We have some measure of translation, obviously, and the idea is that we just go A to Z. We start and we get, I think Hawaii should probably be the first nation to do it because of their seminal importance, to come forward and give expert testimony. We need theologians, historians to come forward, and academics coming forward to also break the back of the deception of history and start to tell the real history. And I think this could be entertainment, education, entertainment, and justice all in one on an unheralded scale if we can get the platform and build the virtual court platform.
This is what's already built. So the ability to have disputes that are all digital, and all people have to do is acknowledge that there's a digital jurisdiction, just like we acknowledge there's an America, there's an American court system, and it's taken over from XYZ colonial court system and English law, etc. All we have to do is recognize a new system, and you can create different cases, whether they're a case with multiple people or a single, or maybe it's a class action suit, and it has a system just like this. So where multiple people can come in, you and I are on Zoom right now. This is a platform that is controlled, tracked, surveilled, monitored in different ways than other platforms like Meet. But this technology that you see here can actually combine, judicial type settings for arbitration or mediation, multiple rooms, all of it can be recorded and decentrally stored so the individuals actually own it and control it. And then you can have different arbiters that you trust, that want to self-select, that want to be a part of it. And they can all have their own little bios, what they do, where they're educated, where they're not. And it really looks at who are they? What is their spirit? All those different parts and pieces. And if you want to do it based out of the Hawaiian Kingdom, it looks something similar to, I can't see it with all these tools. It looks like this. So literally, I don't know if you've seen this before, but have you seen any of this?
No.
This is the Hawaiian Kingdom standing up. So
wonderful.
Imagine a governance system that's based.
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful.
This goes back into all of their history. They really absolutely are independent. So when you look at, their constitution, their different councils, by the way, to join a council, it's just this simple right here. You literally just scan a QR code, it pops you in,
Yes,
and then
good,
the
good,
voting
good.
process can happen. When you jump into these councils basically have their own agendas. See this, Sasha? So you got agendas, and then you can go back into historical agendas
Got it.
and
I
actually
understand.
see what was actually on the agenda, if there was one for a particular week. Let's see if I can find
Okay.
one. But basically, there's different services that they have. So the dispute resolution.
Michael, I'm bringing Don in from the ITNJ because we're gonna have to double up.
That's
He's
okay.
the key man here, and I've got 5 minutes to get in my car and to the Michael Jaco interview. I'm gonna let him down
wrap
big
up
time.
what
Don,
you want to
you
see.
with us? And I want to leave Don with you and then rejoin this. Have another call in the next day or two, whenever you can do it, to really pick up on this. But this is very, very exciting. Don, are you with us?
I am. Hello. Greetings.
Michael, can I relax your screen for a moment just to say hi to Don?
Yep.
I can see you
Okay.
yeah.
Don, it's all a bit rushed, and I can only but apologize. I'm
No
also
worries.
ambushing Michael Proper, who's a beloved friend of mine, also a very, very brilliant man at every level, so spiritually all the way through to technologically, and the work he's doing is connected directly to redemption and salvation in much the same way that the work of New Earth and our International Tribunal for Natural Justice and the World Hereditary Council we're setting up, all that work integrates. Michael is the founder of the Clear Phone phenomenon, which is the world's greatest encrypted, complete annihilation of the third-party intervention is his core remit, and working now with there's the phone. Many of my crew have that phone, and he's also in Hawaii right now and working with resetting the backbone of our civilization as it relates to resurrection of true autonomy to First Nation people. So he's involved in a big way, in a very technological way, and has all, from what I've just seen in the last 15 minutes, and that's what I suspected when I had my eureka two days ago, that Michael will have done all of this work. No one needs to reinvent the wheel here. He's got the entire panoply, the infrastructure, the will, and the grace of God. What we need to do is work out where the intersect is, make sure we're fully aligned, which I know we will be. We already know the key principles. He also works with Chief Phil Lane Jr., who I'm just getting connected with right now in respect to the work we're doing. So everything's fitting perfectly. What I'd like to do, and I'm sorry to be rude like this, but I've got a very important interview with Michael Jaco kicking off shortly. It's a live one. And Sue Wong's, I can keep my voice down. Her internet went down because something happened in the canyon last night. And I'm barely able to get connection here. It won't do for live transmission. So I've got to run in 3 or 4 minutes, get in my car and run to Chatsworth, other side of LA, in front of a screen in time for the interview. So what I wanted to do, Don, is leave you in with Michael so he can, and this is going to be difficult for you, Don, because Michael's a big character and his vision is huge now, but you're the cleverest man I know, Don, in my team. So I'm going to leave you guys together. And then if we could then have another meeting where we have to bring other key figures in. But Don, I'm really excited about this because I've known Michael for a few years. And from when I first met him, I knew there was a soul covenant somewhere or compact. I just didn't know when or where. This is how these things happen. And of course, in the last few months with this crush that I've been involved in 29 countries, Michael, in the last year, 29 countries.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know what it's like.
Yeah.
So I've lost sense of time. I'm driven completely by prophecy and by the mission right now. And I'm seeing where the dovetail is. It couldn't be more perfect. So if I can leave the two of you together on the playing field.
Very good.
At the end of this meeting, if you guys could then set the new meeting with Miriam and Antonio, Don from my side, and then let's pick it up and run. And I'll continue, Michael, with you. Maybe later today, with your permission, I can just phone you and carry on a bit of a riff with you on the phone.
Yeah.
Would that work?
That would work perfect. Call anytime.
Thank you. All right, guys. Love you both, and thank you for this.
Love you, Sasha.
Kia ora.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you, Don, permission. One moment. Allow to record local files, and I'm going to give you make co-host.
I think you have this meeting recorded already.
It's being, it
We've
is
got
being
it. We've
recorded.
got it streaming and recorded. We're good.
Yeah.
I can get you a copy of it if you need it.
Okay, gotcha. Assign.
There
Very
he
good.
goes.
Wow.
It's nice to make your acquaintance, Don.
It's very nice to make your acquaintance, Michael. Yes. I was asked to be on standby yesterday by Miriam. I did have a look at the ClearPhone initiative that you have. I'm not that up with it. I mean, I've looked at some of the hardware and I think communications are definitely and secure communications are definitely very important. I think there was something about the infrastructure that you have that Sasha was interested in, and whether we could work together with the infrastructure.
Yeah, so I can run you through kind of the high level and then maybe ask questions from there if that works.
Sure, that'd be great.
I'll just share my screen real fast.
And thank you for your time too.
Hey, that goes two ways. It's grateful. So I'm grateful just to be able to be plugged into it. And I love Sasha and what he's doing. And some of his stuff may be out there for a lot of people who don't understand his definitions, but when they really start understanding it, it's like, wow, it's nice to have somebody actually standing up for truth. So maybe I should start with just simple kind of organizations. So these are organizations that are dedicated to building decentralized systems. And from software to storage, so this literally has over a decade worth of storage architecture behind it and operating systems and such. And then phones, which you're probably familiar with. And then the ability to drive the awareness. And some of the stuff that Sasha's talking about is with this gentleman, Phil Lane here. And then the software side of it that actually replaces the platform that we're currently on. You know, it's got, things that replace Google, Docs, Sheets, email, calendar, contacts, and then all of the details around how we're collaborating right now. Instead of using a third-party platform like Zoom, it basically it's got all that built in. But then there's companies, that are in the future as well. And these companies are focused on health, abundance, so growing, and then energy as well. So these are all things that are in the future, but they've actually all got a lot of material history to them. And right now we're basically just standing up the adoption side of it. We've acquired a bunch of companies, but it's really not about all of the companies. If anything, it's all about decentralization. And all of these companies organize together and work on a technology that is given to the world. It's open source, it's open standards. There's no one that is one individual or one organization that's behind it. And it's what we call the digital world. And it's the digital world that we all plug into. Like you and I are connecting over a digital ecosystem. We're not physically connected. We're not spiritually connected yet. And so it uses a model where you basically have an access device like a phone. And it's not just a Clear phone. It's any phone. Apple, Android, Clear, it all works. And it connects into decentralized storage that does validations. And the validations basically replaces systems. So I'll give you an example. So in the Hawaiian Kingdom, you basically have a country, a nation that has been taken over. And in some ways, there's a lot of value that's been added. And in other ways, identity has been stolen. And enough is enough. It's just to a point where, what happened with Lahaina, the ashes of that city will rebuild this digital ecosystem. And the brilliance of the Hawaiian and the Polynesian, the Micronesian, the Melanesian, all of these beautiful people that live in a decentralized way. And he talks about grandmothers. This is a real woman with real pain, with a real prayer. And the ability for them to stand up and use decentralized systems, kind of like what we see here, instead of the centralized way, you literally have a decentralized approach. And that approach changes everything because it puts the individual back in control. There's a particular phone that's being launched within this ecosystem, but again, they don't need the phone. They basically need their own identity. And almost any phone now can give that to them. This particular phone just comes pre-installed with it's a simple turnkey, system, so to speak. The goal is to have these different, it's not just the Hawaiian Islands. For instance, we've been meeting with multiple different countries, and there's 9 more that we're also targeting within the next 6 months, but we've met with 19 over the last year, almost 14 months. And it enables, the Hawaiian Kingdom is just one of them that will basically have simple goals around governance. So the ability for them to be able to stand up,
Yes.
get their identity back, run a whole new financial system, a whole new dispute management system. That's what Shanta was talking about.
Okay.
Citizenship, who are they? And it does it in such a way where their identity is masked. How do they vote? How does genealogy tie into this? So basically bringing all of this together in a new system that will leapfrog over the centralized Western systems. And literally they stand up their own. And for instance, the Hawaiian Kingdom had their own financial system and currency before the Americans came in and took it over from the Hawaiians. It was called the Hawaiian Dala. And the Dala is actually something that existed, and it was just put on the back shelf when the US dollar was actually used for commerce. But what this technology enables is literally the ability for someone to actually be born into an ecosystem or adopted into an ecosystem where their last name is actually a QR code that they have to scan to validate it. So they don't give away their identity. Identities and names are very sacred and very private. So imagine the ability for these names to be able to be connected. So in other words, I'll give you an example. I'll scroll all the way to the bottom and just say, let's say that you have registered your vehicle after getting a driver's license or using another driver's license and actually getting a license plate that's what we call a cryptographic plate. So an officer would scan this, and then they would pull up massive amounts of data and knowledge about them, about this particular, I'll see if I can pull up some additional slides, about this particular vehicle. Who owns it? How, is it financed? Is it insured? Is it mortgage? Does it have owners? Does it have drivers? Has it been stolen? All of that type of thing. But the individual's identity may pop up like something like this, where you see a driver's license, but notice a driver in front of it. Let's imagine that this driver is connected to that license plate as they're driving, but they don't actually get the name of the individual. They have to scan, and the user then approves. So they don't give their phone to the officer. They actually approve the officer to see what they need and validate what they need to, but they don't relinquish their identity or data. Now, this is just one example of a car getting pulled over and a driver's license for validation. This can happen in almost every kind of transportation, whether it's flying, whether it's validating an ID to go and have a drink in a bar that you want to prove that you're actually 21 or older. So it's really important from an identity standpoint, but also ties over to how our companies are created. For instance, this last week, Trump was basically railroaded within New York by a judge that just had it out for him. That what's happening is just noise in the system. But if you build your company and your financial system and your banking all within a house of sand, it's going to crumble like it's starting to. And a system like this, you can literally create a business. So here, I'll go ahead and log in here real fast. So this will show you exactly how it works, because it may make a lot more sense. So on my phone, I've got a Life app, and it doesn't matter whether it's Tuvalu Life, Fiji Life, Vanuatu Life, but you basically use a Life app because it validates who you are, and it actually knows a ton about you, but it doesn't have to divulge it. So notice how I've logged in, but I actually haven't authenticated with any kind of username and password. This is the future of the systems where a user will basically own their own identity and own their own ability to validate. Now, I can come in and I can do different things with certificates, birth certificates, adoption, marriage, death. I can join a council. I can create a dispute, kind of like what he was just talking about, class action suit, mediation. I can get a license, whether it's an automobile or a motorcycle or a boat. Maybe it's for a weapon, or organizations like a business. So for instance, if you want to create a business, kind of like what Trump just did, but it was lost, and everything around it. So all of his finances, all of
Oh,
the.
I mean, in the Trump example, it's not lost. They have appeals, and they will appeal, and they'll
Right,
have it
right,
overturned.
But the point that
you know, anybody else, they can crush you.
well, no. They literally. Here, I'll show you. I'll show you how it works.
Mhm.
So I'll just log into a bank real fast and show you exactly what they do.
Mhm.
Same structure, same everything, and this is how the new systems actually operate. So when they want to take down a company, it's not just a matter of, oh, we're going to close their bank account, but no, we're actually going to go and lock up accounts.
Yep.
So these are different companies with different bank accounts that they literally just go and target. Like, and so it's not only you can't use it, but they literally seize it. And it's the UCC laws that tie back into what's happened with the Trump. Most people don't even understand that. It's not just a matter of going through the courts and the interference and all of the emotional and financial and time. It's not just appeals. It's deeper than that. It's literally, they control the financial system, the identity system, you know, the taxation system.
I get that. And there are a number of people that I'm in fairly close contact with, not in IT&J circles, who are looking for a solution such as what you're presenting. I need to dig a little bit deeper, but I know that there's a chap I'll be talking to later today who's doing it's a slightly different twist on this, but he needs the infrastructure in Australia, and also
I may have talked to him last night. Actually, talked to an interesting gentleman last night out of Australia. I've been talking to him for weeks, but yeah.
It wouldn't be his name wouldn't begin with an S, would it?
The gentleman that introduced me to them, his name starts with an S. Let's take it offline because this stuff is all streaming and live.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
yeah, but deep connections globally, and all out of it's coming all out of Australia, which is a different conversation.
I'm here in New Zealand.
I lived in Omokoroa for a couple of years, from 2011 to 2013, in Tauranga, the Bay of Plenty. Kia ora.
Okay, very nice.
What part of New Zealand are you in?
I'm in Christchurch.
Yeah.
Otautahi.
That's beautiful. Well, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I had Billy on yesterday. Do you know Billy Atatika?
Billy TK.
Yeah, he was on with me yesterday.
Oh, very good.
Wonderful man. Absolute wonderful man. He's in the middle of all of this as well. So, but you can see from Aotearoa, and Aotearoa will be standing up as well. So like this Hawaiian kingdom, you know, all the Polynesians, they're all connected. And the goal is to help them see who they are so they can unite. Because historically, they've just been fighting against one another. In Aotearoa / New Zealand, you know, all of the different kingdom builders. I think the spiritual connection down there is actually stronger than it is in the Hawaiian Islands, primarily because the U.S. has just had such an influence and stepped on it. But you know, the real heart before Jacinda got in is so solid down there, just absolutely solid.
Yeah. There's quite a number of factions, and what I'm seeing is that different groups are all trying to reinvent their own wheel, and the challenge here is to get them to work together. That's because they're building, and we'll see what happens. I've got a call later today with one of the rangatira who's I'm getting an update on what was happening at Waitangi last week, and a couple of weeks ago now. And then there's a hikoi down to Castle Hill, and also the origin of the Greenstone Trail.
This here is actually a photo of Phil Lane Jr.
Right.
This is who Sasha is meeting with tomorrow, and who he was talking about. This is actually a gentleman, Ray Mahir, who passed away, dear friend, brother, and then some. I mean, I can't even say enough there. But what this is this is 35 people in New Zealand. So we've all flown down there, and we know that it's coming from the roots. This gentleman works for Family Search. Amazing. I won't even talk about some of the other individuals because some of the things they do is way too sacred. But the point is this nucleus of these beautiful, and Sasha hit it right on the head. It's the grandmothers that are actually going to pull this together. This is Auntie Dulce. She just recently passed away. And there's another one, Auntie Marama Tarawa, who will actually stand up Aotearoa with a bunch of other grandmothers. Amazing, amazing woman. But yeah, I can't believe that you're based down there. That's beautiful to hear. So what other things would you like to go over? What would you like to discuss?
Okay, so in terms, I'm interested in your server infrastructure. Where are your servers hosted? Are you on one of their corporate clouds?
No.
How secure is that?
So what
I
we
would
do,
imagine that you're using a blockchain sort of system.
yeah. So what we do, this is the model right here, right? So we basically built an operating system called ClearOS Server. I don't know if you can see that here. That runs the server systems that's tied to a company called Clear Center. Another one that an operating system called ClearOS Mobile that's tied to a company called Clear Cellular. I'll go ahead and pull those up real fast.
Right.
And these organizations literally have massive adoption. So this particular operating system from Clear Center has global adoption in 150 plus countries, so 154 countries. It's got 17 years in development, and there's actually over 450,000 deployments, but only 263,000 active. And what this does is it creates a decentralized backend where people can self-select to install modules from these like apps that basically does things around transactions or storage. And so when I say storage, if I take a photo on my phone, it breaks it into 1,000 pieces and stores it in 1,000 locations. So in other words,
so you've got some sort of distributed RAID cluster sort of thing going on.
You could think about it that way. The way to look at it from a technical comparison, for instance, there was a university out of Australia that did a comparison and review, and this is basically what it looks like. This can be found at digitalworld.earth, and you can see this comparison right here, this full table. So when you talk about blockchain, there's a couple different types. You've got permission-based blockchains, and then you've got permissionless based blockchains like what's Bitcoin and Ethereum and Ripple, etc. And then you've got non-blockchains, which is the banking industry. And what this does is it compares all the features and functions of what they do. So is it truly decentralized, you know, from a commerce standpoint, communications, operating system, maybe programmability, key management. Key management is probably the biggest topic that's really important to understand. Organizations, can you create different identities? Can you do disputes, coin, you know, minting, high volume, low volume, costing, and an operational setup? And what you'll see with this whole thing is basically the digital world is focused all the way across. And this is what, when they did the review and audit out of this university out of Australia, this is kind of what was seen. So there's a very unique.
Your technology is the digital world technology.
Yeah. So, well, it's not mine. It's literally when we look at how many people are involved, it's really important to kind of look at this in context. So I'm going to go back over to clear.co.com. I'm going to click on competition. And it's going to show you the difference between big tech that's centralized and open tech that's decentralized. And when you look at Apple versus Clear on the cell phone side of it, and some of the things that Apple does, this shows you how we compare. So are we advanced when it talks about Macs and desktops? No. What about, different, it shows you a pad? No, we don't. But it shows you how you can use open source technology that's decentralized to compete with the closed systems. And it's not just Apple, it's Google, it's Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, IBM, a lot of different top level domains, which is a whole nother conversation. But when you add up all these different companies and all of the money and people that they've spent on it and compare that to with what we've done, it pales in comparison. But the key is, this is all built on millions of lines of open source code that everyone lives the law of consecration and gives. So they actually donate their time and their code to the betterment. And you can read a book called Tools and Weapons, which was written by the chief legal counsel for Microsoft. And he spells out exactly what's happened and how New Zealand is in the middle of it. That's why we were there in New Zealand from 2011 to 2013 to make it so the open source war could actually be realized. And it worked. And he spells it out. So Microsoft spells it out in their book. They talk about how the small business server went away because of open source. They talked about how the patent systems went away because what happened. I literally, before Jacinda got in, I met with Parliament and they actually listened. Microsoft had lobbyists which were trying to change the law. They were trying to just add 2 words into it. And literally, there's no software patents allowed in New Zealand. I don't know if you know that or not. But software, there's patents that are allowed, like the dishwashers or physical devices, but these software patents are not legal. And that's where open source got its roots, and then it grew crazy from there. So when you look at
my background, I was self-taught in IT from about 1989. I think I was involved with, I was a lawyer. I was trained and qualified, worked as a lawyer, but I didn't like what I saw, and I got involved in activism. And in the early 90s, there was the Other Economic Summit, and there was this realization that, you know, we meet together for these conferences, and then rah, and it passes on, you know, and then maybe in a year's time or 2 years' time, there'll be another conference. And that's where the sort of the APC, Association for Progressive Communications, and in New Zealand, Planet, it was, got its start when they said, well, let's use the technology that exists. I think it was FidoNet and UUCP at that stage, and bring that to the community, not the corporate community, but the volunteers, non-profits. And so, so I worked with Planet, which were the first ISPs in New Zealand for quite a few years, and then I worked with the Association for Progressive Communications, which was Planet was a member of that. It was an international group of non-profit ISPs, and I was their member services director, and I travelled and visited the different members in about 20 countries. So I've got a reasonable background in the sort of the concepts and the technology, and so I'm familiar with what you're talking about, and I see the potential. Obviously, you need to scratch the surface a bit more, but I like what you're telling me.
Beautiful. Well, we would be honored to provide the infrastructure. This isn't a sales pitch because we're not selling anything. This is technology that can actually accomplish what Sasha was just talking about being realized, where everyone in the world doesn't have to ask permission to exist, to have an identity and to do a transaction, because ultimately the individual has the power in their own ability to say, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to buy, and this is the currency I'm going to buy it on. So what we're all about here in the Hawaiian ecosystem is not just standing up the Hawaiian kingdom again, but helping people to see that they're one. And by unifying and coming together once a month and shopping local, which is decentralized. So they're shopping local. So they're buying local product, which means people have to plant them, harvest them, create them, or whether it's something they're creating by hand. But if you buy local with a local currency, that economy will thrive, and they will actually have subsistence for life instead of relying on monocropping and centralized systems and supply chain and governments that just create fictitious money out of nothing. So it really, it's a system underneath it. So you tell me when you want to meet and what you'd like to cover again, or we can keep going here.
I do want to learn more about the implementation, and how it could be rolled out. Like I can see that there are people here, there's communities here, and in other parts of the world, but there are communities here that are looking for a solution like this. And I'm a member of some of them. And there's all sorts of people floating around talking about how they've got their blockchain technologies, and they've got their cryptos that they're wanting to introduce, etc., etc. But they don't have a sort of a big bag of solutions. I mean, the identity is very important. The different registries are extremely important. One of the objections that I think you'll find is that if the computers go down, if the comms go down, if it goes dark, are we stuffed?
So let me kind of review with you. Maybe I can even find it. We were in Vanuatu earlier this year for a month. And this wonderful this beautiful, beautiful country full of people that I mean, this is a really good example, because some people call it the happiest country on earth. 81.
I worked for on and off for about 20 years with the Pacific Islands Association of NGOs.
Perfect.
And so I've been to Vanuatu a few times.
So I took my family there, and we lived there for a month, and we got to know the heart of the people. And we went around with the minister and the prime minister, his older brother, and we basically went through all their shopping. Okay. And then we had two cyclones, category 5 cyclones. One during the day, the eye of the cyclone went right over us. And then 2 days, a day and a half later. And the second one that came through was more powerful than the first. And I'm talking homes that were gone, power infrastructure that was down for months. They had power outages for 3 months. 3 months, okay? And what we saw there was not just roads that were difficult to traverse and get around, or homes that were decimated, but we saw a cash-based society that crumbled. And what we ended up seeing was the cellular communications were the first things to come back up. The power really, the whole time we were there, didn't come back up. Literally, for 3 months in parts, didn't even come back up. And what that means is cash-based cultures can't get money because the ATMs don't have power. So if you really want to think through it, we all care about these little devices, and we won't even, if we leave our home without these devices, we'll go back and get them. We're always thinking about, when I'm sleeping, this thing's charging, those types of things. It's literally, we care about the phones being up because that's our umbilical cord to the world. Not only will it be how we get our money, but it will be what the centralized systems actually want to track and surveil and profile all of us on. So the common factor is an access device, a phone that's actually going to, this is one of the newer ones, a phone that is actually going to work. And so you've got to have, and even if you don't have the connectivity side of it, you can still do different types of transactions local. So when you say power outage, what was interesting in Vanuatu, these things still worked. The phones still worked. You could still transact, but you couldn't get money out of the ATMs. And so it was a very key lesson, because you go down to the rudimentary cultures that are actually using these types of systems, and that's what you end up with. So I hope that answers your question. It's not a perfect solution for everyone, but I can tell you that when you go into environments that they may end up having something that is not common, that's what you end up with. So.
And we've got to use something, and everybody is using phones, as you're right. Although there is a bit of a move towards dumb phones now, but like the tracking.
The thing that's important to note is the secret combinations and centralized systems are going to use phones to actually track and surveil us. People already pay for iPhones a lot of money for the phone and a lot of money for the service only to be tracked. They don't understand what they're doing, but that's what it is. So it's, let's see if I can find some more. But you know, when you net it out, the weakest link is not necessarily the power or the communication, whether it's cellular or internet. Well, for instance, I've personally taken Starlink infrastructure to Vanuatu. I was the first access point that was ever in Vanuatu. Even when they said, if you bring the gear in, we're going to confiscate it. I brought the gear in. I showed them that they can do it. Like literally the very first unit. I wish I could find some photos. They're just amazing. Let's see if I can find them. Because I've actually got photos of these systems all up in these different countries. So it's not just Vanuatu, but we took it into...
No, you don't need to prove it to me.
We took it to Fiji. Well, it's important for you to understand. We took it to Fiji, and then we took it to the least traveled country in the world. Do you know what that is?
Oh, God, it's probably in the Indian Ocean, is it?
Nope, it's in the Pacific Ocean.
Kiribati.
Nope.
No, not Kiribati. Where is it?
It's
Tarawa, Tuvalu.
Tuvalu. You're right.
Tuvalu. Yeah.
And not only are they the least visited country, but they're the country that will lose their land because of global warming and water rising. Fast, they'll lose it more before anybody else does. They're already losing it. I've been here with the cellular and satellite infrastructure, and I'm telling you, it works and it will work. Is it perfect? No. Is it fully deployed? No. But this is one of the most remote parts of the world. And not only are they remote and losing their land, but they're losing their identity as well. And so what I'm showing you here is their actual deployment of this system: a driver's license, a marriage license, a vehicle registration.
They are deploying the system.
They're already deploying it right now. It's been over a year that we've been in there working with Tuvalu deploying it.
Very cool.
And not only, you know, we talk about land management to create businesses, to create passports. You know, they already have their country's passports to do the dispute resolution. You know, literally. And this man is a leader like we could not even pray enough for. And right now, yesterday, I asked him if he, I don't know if you've seen
Your
this
Excellencies,
before.
honored.
Have you seen this before?
No, I haven't.
Absolutely amazing. But he, and there's a follow-on video to this that's even better. But he basically, they've just gone through new elections, and he was the Minister of Foreign Relations prior, and communication, and I think commerce. But he's just been reelected, and they may make him the Prime Minister. But he's literally, when you look at what he's doing, it's absolutely phenomenal. And his heart is driven by the right things. He's not a politician. He's a doer. He's an absolute doer. So I can keep going here and tell you how.
And the place is small enough and remote enough that it's difficult to infiltrate and to corrupt.
I think that,
although foreign aid packages generally come with strings.
Well, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank have done some interesting things, but this is not the right channel to talk about it.
No. All right. Okay.
So I can just tell you that regardless, this man's heart will make the right decisions. And,
very good.
And it's not just him. His bloodlines come from a combination of Samoa and Tonga, which comes from Hawaii and linked to the Maoris.
Yeah.
So it's all one family, and they know it. They absolutely know it. You know, so the Pacific is where this work is being done. And 4 countries right now are standing it up. The most recent one, and I believe one of the most important ones, is the Hawaiian Kingdom. Why is it important? Because it's been occupied by the United States of America, which the United States of America also recognized that as it's occupied it, it's apologized. 3 different presidents have actually apologized, 2 formally, but the ability for them to unite and align as different kings, so to speak, because really they're all from bloodlines that are wonderful and pure, and their hearts are good and they want to make a difference. Some of them come at it from, you'll get this, some of them come at it from a legal standpoint. Some of them come at it from a process standpoint. Some of them come at it from a recognition standpoint. Some of them just straight get busy and start working on projects now and pulling in money and helping their brothers and sisters and giving, Akua, which is God, all the recognition, which is why this is going to work. They're not building kingdoms. They're not putting a president in or a prime minister in. They're putting God over all, using councils to basically manage. Here, I'll pull it up real quick. So let's go to, so these councils can operate in and of themselves. Like literally, and I want to find a meeting on one that's really a good one. I failed earlier. Yeah, this one's not a good one. But you can basically run meetings and then have votes for these meetings as well. Let's see if this was a good one. If Charles sees this, Charles, we gotta get on these things. So these are basically the ability to govern through councils and people coming together to actually vote and join councils, but they do it in such a way that's unique and anonymous. Like you can see that this is my world here, but if someone wants to actually see certain certificates, they have to request it of me. So they actually have to scan this request. It sends it off to me. I have to approve it, and then they can see my last name. They can see the document that they requested, but they can't actually copy it, duplicate it, or own it or control it. The decentralized systems do that. Does that make sense to you? No?
Copy, own, and control.
No,
or control.
They can't.
Decentralized systems. Well, they can view it. I mean, I imagine they could take a screenshot of the certificate.
Yep, they do.
But they can't give. I mean, unless they created a parallel system and sort of spoofed you.
Here's the value. Here's the value of it. Decentralization is built on what the world would call blockchain, which is built on what the world would call cryptography, which is short for crypto. Okay, this number right here is a derived key for my decentralized identity, also known as a DID. The world will use this standard because the technology behind it is absolutely, one, it's consecrated for the right reasons. All of the barcode systems have actually standardized on it. Barcodes moving into QR codes, like a QR code like this. But the point that I'm trying to drive at is, like, let's go and jump on to look at a business registry. So let's look at maybe this business right here, where we can see.
So, Michael, what does it take to set up an implementation of this system for a community or a nation?
If they want to run their own back-end systems, like if they want to have their own systems like this, then it's probably about a month's worth of configuration. But once it's set up, it can't be killed. And if they want to do it in a shared environment off of this system, so if we come into this, you'll see different corporations and different entities, but this actually creates the countries. Like you can see the Eastern Caribbean Union, also known as, an organization. There's 9 different countries that are in there that basically create this thing called Dcash, which if you're familiar with Dcash, when they first went live with the version 1, they had outage issues. A lot of it is because people don't understand the front end interface and the back end decentralization. This is a front end interface that ties to a decentralized system on the back end, if that makes sense. So so that's basically all you need to understand is you've got a front end and a back end. If they do the front end, it's about a month. If they do the front end and the back end, it's about 3 months. But once it's set up, they can operate in perpetuity. And all they have to do is select what types of things that they want. For instance, you can see over here that there's limited types of things that the Hawaiian Kingdom has. So they've got some certificates, some councils. But if we come over to Tuvalu, like I'll log into the Tuvalu backend. And this is using 5-factor authentication of 5 factors that the individual owns. There's no centralized system to that login that just happened, period. So if the user has a fingerprint and they're 12 words, they can get in. So this is logging into a backend of Tuvalu. And you can see they have very limited things, like 6, maybe 7 different things, okay? You want to get a driver's license. You want to get, if you want to log into the back end of the Hawaiian Kingdom, you can see that they have a lot more. If you want to log into the back end of, let's say, the digital world, notice how fast all these authentications are as well. So I'm using the same access device. I can see much more. So these are different companies, different systems. So maybe it's identity, maybe it's health, maybe it's email, maybe it's photos. There's a lot more that an individual can actually pull in. They can create assets. They can create different, I think on this one, there's some fun ones that the world might know. Let's see. No, maybe not. Let's say that they want to actually prepay for food. So let's say that there's a farm that say they want to actually drop an asset on here. This can actually create a digital asset. So you talk about a lot of people in New Zealand that want to create a digital asset. Well, they can just come right onto here and literally create it, and it drops onto their phone, and then they can send it to their friend in real time. So think about what Ethereum's done, but times that by 1,000 in simplicity. And think about what Bitcoin and the mining infrastructure has done, and times that by like 3,000 or 4,000. So the back-end architecture, scalable, the ability for the use case scenario of this to actually be adopted within cultures, whether it's the whole world, whether it's a select country or another country that can then peer with the countries. And so think about these countries in the Pacific, they work together even though there's dysfunction. They really do. And they use an analogy of we may be in our own canoe, but we're paddling in the same direction. And it has been humbling and an eye-opener to see the hearts of the people and just understand. And it really isn't about technology. It's about what Sasha was talking about around everyone coming together. Because if they come together through the power of unity, light will prevail instead of the dysfunction of dividing people. When people are divided and cultures are divided and languages are divided, there's chaos. And that's why all these different wars and rumors of wars are it's so important right now.
So how would
align.
we use this for Doctrine of Discovery, Circle of Humanity, campaign? Is because I can see they're kind of different, but
say that again. Doctrine of Discovery. Say that one more time.
Well, I'm sort of putting my IT&J hat back on, and I'm thinking, okay, so what we're wanting to do is multiple things here, but primarily we need to be able to schedule and arrange seatings to create an archive, a library of testimony of First Nations, Indigenous peoples' stories about their experience in the last 500, 600 years, and with a view to achieving a unity and an awareness, a sort of a collective awareness that they've all been hard done by, and we want to go back to a time before the Doctrine of Discovery, back to those hereditary lines, so that the customary hereditary leaders and leadership can stand, like the Kingdom of Hawaii, like Tuvalu, and they can assert themselves in the world using a system such as what you're presenting. But for IT&J's part in that, it is about recording that testimony, creating that library, that archive, and assisting with that raising of consciousness so that people understand the challenge and the problem and acknowledge their, well, it's also a way of them acknowledging their unity, their collective experience, their shared experience. So,
you know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send you this document, which it has pieces of what you're asking. It's a full document that goes through, basically how a country would go through an RFP or an RFI to actually onboard, which is pretty close to what you're talking about. But there's a piece to it, and I want to see if it's actually in here, where we link genealogical data that's private to validate an individual. I wonder if it's in here. And then allow them to store their memories and their data. The gentleman that actually started Ancestry, I don't know if you're familiar with Ancestry or My Family.
I know the names.
So what's interesting is the internet is used for good and for evil. The good part of it, the evil is number one, and it's pornography and sexual this and that, a perversion of sort, but which is actually a beautiful thing. It's the most important gift we've been given, the ability to procreate. But it gets perverted in pornography and other things, which is the number one use of the internet. The second use of the internet is actually genealogy. So imagine the ability to actually link the past with the future. And what you do, so let me just throw this out there because you understand cryptography. What is the weak link inside of cryptography? And everything that we've been talking about, what is the weakest part of all of it? It's not power, it's not phones. What is the weakest part?
What's the trust?
Keep going. What builds the trust?
Well, there are different ways of doing it, but there is the linkage, the others vouching for you, or
but to get the vouching. So what I'm driving at is the cryptography is what actually builds the trust. It's the core part of it. It's the math. But what is a user actually interfaces with when they do it? And I'll actually, no, it doesn't even show you right here. What it is the 12 words. If people lose the 12 words, they lose everything. They literally lose everything.
Their key.
Their key, their private key. That is what is imperative with all of this. And so imagine if, let's say that you signed up for this, put your life into it, you recorded your history. By the way, there are iwis in New Zealand and Aotearoa that we're already working with. Like I'm telling you.
Iwi or hapu?
Huh?
Iwi or hapu? You iwis or hapu?
There either are iwis to different marais, to different families and individuals that we're working with that are.
So you're probably working at the hapu level. I'd be really interested to know which iwi you may be.
I've got there's another document that I can send you that has as a matter of fact, if you want, I'll try and find it. Because you're coming out of the cellular industry, so you'll understand a lot of it. And it has everybody's contact info. But the point that I'm trying to make here is it's all about, I'll send you this document as well. It's all about, because these are actually the questions. So everything in bold is the question that they asked. Oh, no, excuse me. Everything not bolded is their question, and everything bolded. Now, when they talk about CBDC, the goal is to deploy blockchain / decentralized systems in such a way where they're not centrally controlled. Totally. So the goal is, and if people want to centralize decentralization, all they have to do is something very simple. And they're doing this with the 4 countries that have rolled Bitcoin out already. You run the Lightning Network and you link a name, a date of birth, and a phone number with a public key. Then you can actually centralize decentralization with machine learning. Easy. But with derived keys, they can't actually link it up. Derived keys are like how everything works when, let's say you've got a wallet and you've got an asset, but how you actually do things around, let's say identity management versus asset management versus payment management versus dispute management. each one of those uses a different derived key from the primary master key. Does this make sense? So it's all about
Yeah.
So it's true key management is what makes this really unique
Yeah.
and why it's so important for humanity. That one thing by itself. So the architecture to build this was built, and I've shown some of the photos of the people, but it's let's see if I can find some of these other docs real fast while we're waiting. So, and then I'll get you some names of the people that we originally worked with. We actually, well, I won't, on this body, I can't say what we were doing, but just know that, put it this way, all of the domains from Aotearoa are all ready to stand this up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just leave it at that.
I'd be interested to know who, because I'm working with some, and I've also, the challenge here is to get them to work together.
Yeah, that's what all the channels, and that's why I'm so excited. If you and Sasha and Billy and, because it's difficult to get them to just understand, hey, by us arguing, it doesn't mean that you're wrong or I'm right. It just means that we have different perspectives and different realities, and we're both right. But at the end of the day, let's cast a vote. Let's ask a question and cast a vote. And then that vote, driven by councils, can actually be what gets implemented, and the technology delivers it. And then there's service providers that can also do it, if that makes sense. So the service provider side of
looks like I've got a lot of reading to do to get up to speed with this, but it's very interesting, and it shows tremendous potential. You've clearly done a huge amount of work. You've made incredible progress. It's still a work in progress by the look of it, but you're a long way along the road.
This system here, let's see. This is what the genealogy side of it is all built on. So it's called UGS, which is a standard within how genealogy actually works. So before my family was created, which is the #1 genealogical system in the worldwide, I helped to work with the organization that helped fund them to be able to create genealogical storage. The problem is they implemented it in such a way where it was centrally controlled. And that's not right. The individual should always own their data and the rights to it, period. And so, family tree, this is another document I can share with you that's very, very telling and very mature. And this is probably, I want to say this was 2018 that this was created. There should be a date around here somewhere. But there's 3 or 4 of these documents that were actually created. So we scoped it before we actually started building it. And it talks about the record keepers and the data and the identity. And then we actually rolled it out. That's why all of us went down to New Zealand to actually go through what's the history. Because some of these people have done their their research all the way back to Adam. And that data, and I absolutely emphatically believe it as well. And same thing with some of the folks in the Hawaiian Islands. But the beautiful thing is all their genealogy actually connects. And that's why one world, one people, why it's so important. So there was a system, this was kind of the scoping document for it. And then a system that actually stood up using these different APIs for UGS, Universal Genealogical Standard. So the point is those 12 words, which is the weak link, can actually be rebuilt based upon your family and friends. Imagine if your contacts are truly your contacts, and the ability to be able to rebuild and validate who you are. You can ask your friends and colleagues to actually not only validate who you are, but give you your 12 words back. I know that may sound really weird, but you basically seed them. It's kind of like how cryptography works with multiple validators. So you're actually taking the key and seeding it. Does that make sense?
I think so. I think so. It's like a recovery process.
Yes, you got it. That's exactly right. There's another document that I need to find for you though. It'll show you all the different organizations we're working with specifically down in New Zealand. But when would you like to meet again? I'm not
Okay. So I was going to inquire actually as to your availability to, if you'd be prepared to meet others here. This is not directly Sasha related. This is just, but give me an opportunity to review the documents that you're going to send. And I'm happy to meet in, say, a week's time if you're available.
Yeah, I'm available. Just know I'm 100% dedicated to this, so I can go as fast as you want to go, and a week is a long time. This is actually it right here. So notice the name. So these are the different structures. It's a connectivity project. This was 2019. You might be familiar with this.
No, I'm not.
Okay. This is a limited partnership. I want to say he was out of, wonderful guy, by the way. This is, if you don't know him, I'll introduce you to him. And he's down here in the partners. So let's jump down there real fast. So this is a proposal to basically connect up all of the different Mirais through physical connection, and then using some Wi-Fi capability to enable Mirais to actually deliver value, as well as Hapus and things like that. These are the different partners that we're working with. So you can see these are the different organizations involved. Okay. I don't know if you're familiar with Pentech Limited. This will go through some of the people in it. I think there's photos, if I remember right. So this is Pentech's contact information here. Wonderful, wonderful people, by the way. Just then they will absolutely work with you, and they'll get this. I thought there's more there's some contact information. I think there's more. What we were doing was actually deploying the nodes. So this same operating system runs these different nodes. This was all the hardware and software that we were rolling out. These are the actual nodes themselves. So these nodes actually run the backend clusters. And that's one thing, if a country wants to deploy it and they want to have their own validators, so they're not relying on others, they can actually deploy their own nodes. So maybe 3 to 7 nodes, and then they hit their nodes first and then rely as redundant nodes on the other ones. So your analogy earlier, where basically what this is it's instead of RAID that's inside of a computer, the computers are hard drives in this ecosystem. From a technology standpoint, that's really what the architecture looks like. So, oops. I don't know what just happened. I might have another meeting coming up. So this,
good, very good.
Well, I can just share this stuff with you. This goes through all the pricing and all the details. These are all the locations that we're deploying them at in New Zealand.
Okay, so this is for nodes.
Yeah.
So you've got it.
Yeah.
It's pretty well spread, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, very well throughout the country. What's beautiful is back when we did this proposal, there wasn't a lot and we needed more. But, you know, if you want to deploy the systems as a country, I'd recommend deploying some nodes and then using those nodes as primary validator nodes that have priority over others.
Sure.
So, and it's not like it's going to optimize things, but it can literally, it gives you physical control of your data as well. And you can also select to use decentralized storage from others, or you can select to use the storage that you actually want. Here, this is what I was looking for. So this gentleman right here is who you should connect with. Okay. Wonderful, man. This gal here, she's out of Wellington. He's just north of there. She's a political connector and a doer. And then this couple is amazing. They're on the support side of it. So they basically They run her roots. I want to say maybe it's his roots. They're from Tonga or Samoa. I get mixed up. But they bring in jobs from other Samoa. So pulling in Samoa into New Zealand, and they do remote work. So this is basically supporting it themselves. So natives are supporting natives. I shouldn't say natives because they're not natives. Natives is a word that centralized colonialism wants people to think. They're not natives, and they're not even Maoris.
No.
I won't mention what they are, but they're very sacred. Especially this man. And he, for 10 years, worked for the Clear Foundation out of Wellington. He passed away from getting the COVID vaccine.
Yes, that tragedy.
Yeah. And Billy, I don't know if you're working with Billy. If you're not, I'd like to introduce you to him as well. He's there out of New Zealand as well. And so a lot, New Zealand will be a very key part of all of this, but the Hawaiian Kingdom must stand up first. Must. They must see who they are. They must understand, because between Hawaii, Fiji, and then, you've got Vanuatu, Tuvalu, Samoa, and Tonga. Tonga and Samoa, they'll already be in because they just haven't given up their sovereignty the same way as like the Hawaiian Kingdom has or others. But I don't know. I'll stop blabbing, but I'm just excited to find someone that's in the Pacific, that's doing this kind of work, that's asking brilliant questions, that's connected, to people like
there's a lot to work on here. Can I give you my primary email address? And Don at ethos, ethos.nz is I can put it in the chat. And if you're able to send
I can share all this stuff with you.
materials, that would be good.
What was the email again?
Don at ethos, NZ.
ETHOS?
ETHOS.nz.
I've seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
Let me look this up.
I may be on your mailing lists.
I just sent you an email. Let me know if you got it. If so, we'll just start dialogue there. We'll start sharing stuff with you. Don, it's been an absolute pleasure to connect with you. I look forward to the future. I look forward to building with you. I'm so excited to have someone that gets it. And if you could just try and get requirements out of Sasha, I'll do the same. What do they want to see? Because the beautiful thing is technology will do what humans ask it to do. If we ask it righteous things, we will get righteous results, especially when it comes to enabling humanity to have choice. Because right now, that's what's being taken is the choice. So
I've just received your email.
Okay, so we're good. We're locked. So
okay, so let's meet again. Do you want Sasha in on the mix?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, so let's pencil in same time next week.
Okay.
I will work with Miriam to confirm.
Okay.
And I'll let you know if that isn't going to work.
Done. I'll watch for the calendar event if it's going to work then.
All right. Awesome.
Okay. Much love, Don. Kia ora.
Much love. Much love, Michael.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.